Hey guys, this is Scaling from Fast Fire News, here with our Dragon Down Season 6, Episode 18, Against the Odds review. Now, this week's episode of Dragon Down was the conclusion to the big MCT storyline that's been going throughout the season, and also the conclusion to Spinus' arc, which we kind of thought was back a couple episodes ago, but apparently not. So yes, this was the conclusion to that too, and as a result, there wasn't a whole lot else in the episode that the episode focused on, any of the other storylines in the season so far, and those two things are mostly what basically was the focus of this week's episode. So I'll do my best to break it down as best as I can. There was a lot of action in this episode, and it might be a little difficult to review because, as I said, whenever there's usually one main focus, it can be kind of difficult to try to break that down and review it without getting really too specific. But let's start off with I'm going to start this review off by saying that the MCT test, the MCT storyline period, has been a really interesting plotline in the season. The DXH have been good villains in this season so far. I mean, well, they had been a good villains, period. I think this is going to be the end of the DXH in this season. But the DXH had been pretty good villains up to this point. There was a big, heavy focus on them in the first half of the season. And then it kind of slowed down and kind of focused on Vehement Black. And then we got back to the DXH recently. Now, after the MCT test, the overall storyline, now that we've seen both parts, I think the MCT test, the MCT project period, I think it was really interesting. I can say that I think that maybe we could have used a little more development for it before this conclusion, because it seemed like we got it all in 2 episodes near the end, and they had been building this up throughout the whole season. So I think that maybe there could have been a little more meat to this story, I guess is what I'm saying, beforehand, before we got to the final battle. Maybe they could have created some to begin with and sent some out, or something like that. Maybe just kind of like a test run, and then unleash the big army in this episode. So, yeah, I think maybe we could have used a little more of the MCT tests before we got to this, because it had been a running storyline. The DXH had been talking about it from almost the beginning of the season, or not too far into the season, and we only just now finally got anything really on the MCT test, anything really happening with it. So, as I said, yes, the MCT storyline could have used maybe just a bit more. It could have maybe used a little more to it that could have happened. Maybe some more things that could have gone on throughout the season, I guess, before is what I'm saying, before the big war at the end. But nonetheless, I did really enjoy this storyline. It was, since the DXH have been a big major part of the season, there's been a lot of focus on them, and they started out kind of as Dionysus' enemy in the beginning of the season. I'm glad that we got 2 episodes that entirely focused on the DXH instead of trying to shove them in with a bunch of other things, or putting too much focus on the other things. I like the fact that we've gotten a lot of focus on Vehement Black recently, but I think that we did need the final DXH episodes to be focused on the DXH specifically. So, yeah, overall, I really enjoyed the whole DXH this season. I think that they made pretty good villains, and I think Bracer made a pretty good villain of the DXH, and I think overall, it was great getting to see Calder again. We got to see Calder come back, and we got to see Flametail again, which I'll kind of get to that more when I start talking about the battle scenes. But we got to see Flametail make a comeback, and that was really cool because we haven't seen him in forever. Seriously, I don't think we've seen him since season 4, if that. So it's been a long time since we've seen Calder. As Flametail. I've been waiting to get to see Flametail again, so it was really cool that we got to see him. I I was sorry about that. I was thinking about something for a moment. The DXH. So overall, yes, the DXH were good villains this season. I think that they made a good kind of side villain for Dynasty to have to focus on until Vehement Black, until the bigger one came in. I'm glad that the DXH weren't the main big bads because I don't think they really made for the big bad of the season. But it was like a good side villain to focus on while Dynasty also had to deal with Vehement Black. So overall, yeah, the DXH were good villains for the season. I can say they made good villains. Now, I just wanted to kind of talk about my overall opinion on the whole DXH storyline and what I thought of them, period, now that they're pretty much done for this season. But let's move on to the character. I'm going to talk a little bit about the characters this week. First of all, we got Traxel showing up. So we got a basically a crossover with Turbo TRX once again. I heard that this was going to happen. It was shown on the trailer, a trailer for Drying Out this season. I didn't know we were getting nearly this much of him, so that was a pleasant surprise. Now, I think that it was cool that they brought him here because I think that they did kind of need Traxel's help. And it really paid off. Traxel being brought in really paid off when Traxel used his EMP nets to shut down the DXH MCT project. That was like the best moment for Traxel for me because we could have just got Traxel basically helping and fighting with him and then kind of leave, and it would have been cool to have Turbo TRX there. But overall, you have to say to yourself, did they really need him? I mean, could they have? I mean, what was the point of getting Turbo TRX in specific? But it was like, since Traxel had like a huge, like he played a big part in taking down the DXH, it's like it really was his return really paid off in being in the crossover. It's like it really paid off because he helped in a major way. He helped shut down the DXH project. So, and they wouldn't have been able to do it the same way without him, in which case they may have had a harder time doing it, period. So it was really cool that Traxel got a really important moment that really paid off. I think it was really cool that we got to see Traxel come into the show, and since we've never seen him in Drying Out before, we've only seen Drying Out in Turbo TRX series. So it was cool getting to see him in here. And I don't think he didn't get in the way of anything that was going on. He was kind of really, he was just there to help the characters. And overall, yeah, it was really cool having Traxel in this episode, and it paid off when he stepped up to the plate and helped in a major way at the end. So yeah, it was awesome having Traxel in the show again. I also liked the fact that you pointed out that he's been having to fly around between cities a lot lately because the last episode was the crossover of Spin Blast and Turbo TRX, so he literally went from there to back to Drying Out City. So, I mean, I kind of like that he pointed that out. It kind of like, it's like you kind of recognize that as the viewer, so it's kind of nice that the characters acknowledge it too. Now, anyways, so yeah, it was awesome having Traxel in this episode, and when he helped take down the MCT by stopping the project with his EMP nets, that was really cool. And I also like the fact that Splinks' net, it was funny because if you think about it, it's like the crossover helped with the other crossover. Like the Spin Blast and Turbo TRX crossover, Splinks gave that to Traxel, and Traxel used that to help Dino. So it's like, it was cool that we got this like, the crossovers kind of basically all connecting in that way. So yeah, it was just really cool. And as I said, it was really awesome having Traxel back. I've said this a dozen times, but yeah, it was just really cool having him in this episode. I think that we got some really cool moments with him, especially we got some really cool action with him too when he was helping take down the MCT mutations, I guess you could call them. So yeah. I really liked having Traxel in this episode, and I was glad that he played a big part in the episode, in the story, and in the end by helping out that way. Now, moving on, going by characters, the team had a really good dynamic here. We got a really good dynamic with the team this week. It was a little hard sometimes to differentiate who was doing what and who was talking to who, because a lot of the characters have similar voices. But we got a really good team dynamic here. I kind of wish we got to see Moon Knight maybe talk a little more during the early scenes, because I felt he didn't get a whole lot of interaction with the rest of the characters till closer to the end. And he got a little bit in the very beginning, and then it kind of faded for a while, and he was kind of mostly in the background, kind of just helping. And then he got like a lot more in the end, towards the end in the climax. So I kind of wish we got a little more with him. I mean, it would have been pretty cool to see him talk a little more with Traxel, especially since we got a moment where they did interact as for a second. It would have been cool maybe if he talked with Traxel for a little, and a little bit more like interacted with him in some way, or maybe just kind of if we got a little more friction with him and Dice or something. I just mean it would have been cool to get a little more interaction with Moon Knight during the earlier parts of the episode. But overall, I think that it was still really cool having him on the team. It was really awesome to see him working with Dice. I mean, this is the first time we have ever seen that in the show, and it did not let down at all. So, as I said, yes, as I was saying, the team had a really good dynamic here. Examus, Ager, Drawlin, Dynus, Wyerson, Krajol, and Moon Knight, and Traxel. I think that's all of them. And yeah, we got some really good moments. We got Wyerson delivering the jokes and the gags as usual. Not the gags like choking the characters, but the gags is in jokes and stuff. So we got some good humor with Wyerson being Wyerson. Dynus being Dynus, all the characters just being themselves, and it was really cool getting to see all the characters come together and fight together and kind of interact a lot. So, yeah, we got a lot of good team dynamics this week. A lot of good teams. I mean, it's a lot of moments between the different team members that I really enjoyed. Now, and yes, I didn't include Spinus in that because I'm going to talk about him separately. So, and that actually leads me to Spinus. Now, I had been really skeptical about whether or not I was going to like Spinus's part in these two crossover. I mean, not crossovers. These two, this whole two-part event. I didn't like the fact that they're bringing him back in. I felt that they should have ended with jail. Now, they decided not to do that, and I was afraid by the looks of it that he was going to wind up helping Bracer fight Dynus, and I just didn't. I don't know. I mean, I liked the emotional fight we got, and I just didn't feel like we needed him being dragged back in just for the sake of powering up to and going to battle Dynus again when we got like the best probably fight we could get between those two characters. So I was really skeptical. Now they did not. They actually did surprise me a bit, because that's not the direction they went, and I had wondered if maybe he was going to do something like he wound up doing. But I wasn't sure, and I'm so glad he did. Now, we didn't get to see, right from the get-go when we saw Spinus, we knew he wasn't going to go after Dynus because we saw him going back to his house where his dad lived. So we kind of got the idea once it showed him that he obviously wasn't going to be helping Bracer. But we knew from basically the get-go that he wasn't going to be helping Bracer. Now the scene where he his reunion with his dad, that was a really good scene from both actors. Both actors were really strong during that scene. They did a great job with it. The emotional reunion between them. It was really nice getting to see Spinus get to see his dad again after what had happened. I liked that they did that instead of Spinus just helping Dynus and then saying he was going to go home and us not really getting to see that. I was really glad that we got to see it. And it was a really good scene. Spinus has been downright one of my favorite characters in this season, and this episode did not change that at all. I really liked that Spinus realized his mistakes. I kind of wish maybe he had told his dad during this. I mean, it would have been maybe nice to have, when they were talking about this and him, like, when he was explaining his mistake, it would have maybe been nice to see him say, like, explain why he wanted to matter and all that. I mean, he kind of did in that last episode. He did basically do it in the last episode, but maybe it would be just kind of nice to also see, basically, that he hadn't completely, like, did a complete U-turn and like, just dropped his whole feeling on the former matter. It maybe would have been nice to see him acknowledge that a little more, or kind of basically just basically kind of acknowledge that, why he had done that in the first place a little more. But it didn't matter. It really didn't affect anything. And it was really nice getting to see that reunion. And I like that Spinus, I really like that Spinus, in the end, wound up redeeming himself by helping Dynus. Because you never really felt like the character was evil to begin with, and he felt like a character that should be redeemed, that deserved better. So when he did help Dynus, when he chose to help Dynus, it was a really nice, I guess, surprise. I saw it coming once they did that whole reunion scene, but yeah, I really was glad that they redeemed Spinus in the end. I was really happy with that. By the end, we learn that Spinus is going to basically go home. I don't know how they're going to handle that entirely. I mean, they're not probably going to really talk about it. I mean, because he's basically a fugitive now. I mean, he's supposed to be in jail, according to the police. So I'm not sure how they're exactly going to just let it drop that he's a wanted criminal now that escaped jail, that is basically a fugitive. Because he is supposed to be in jail, and he was let out by another criminal, not a police or anything. So I kind of wonder how that really totally works. But I was, in the end, glad that Spinus got a happy ending, basically. If that is the end of the character that we're going to see in the season, I was glad that he got a happy ending. And it looks like, from what he said to Dynus, that he's going to kind of choose the opposite of what Dynus has chosen for his life, and basically not use his abilities in that way. That is kind of an interesting opposite to Dynus if you think about it, since he's an opposite character. It's kind of like Dynus chose to be a superhero and Spinus chose not to be, and that kind of like is another opposite of the two characters, who are supposed to be like really similar. But anyways, one thing I do want to point out about Spinus is that I am really glad that they redeemed him and that he helped Dynus. Part of me wonders if it would have been better to have him help in the fight against Vehement Black somehow, because Vehement Black was the one who did this to Spinus in the first place and tricked him into being this way. I mean, into being the way he was and doing what he did. So it may have been nice to see him basically I don't know, basically aid some way in that, because once he realized his mistake, once he realized what he'd done wrong, it may have been nice to see him go against like I said, one in my previous review of the last episode about Spinus, that it would have been nice maybe to see him face the one who had done this to him to begin with. So part of me wonders if maybe it would have been a little better to have him go against Vehement Black, or do something to help against Vehement Black, even if he didn't directly fight him or anything like that. But that's not what they chose to do. I mean, there's still a chance it could happen. It could. I mean, maybe they have something planned. I mean, we don't know, because I really thought that the last episode with Spinus was going to be basically his last one, period. So, and it wasn't. So maybe they have something planned with that. Maybe they're going to do something that we don't expect or we don't really see coming. But if it isn't, then as I said, it may have been nice to see that, to see him help with Vehement Black somehow. But in the end, it doesn't. I mean, it may have been a little better story-wise, but it was still this two-parter was a nice way for Spinus to wind up redeeming himself by helping Dynus in this big fight, basically. Now, another thing I want to point out about Spinus, the last thing I want to talk about Spinus, is his relationship with Moon Knight, Kolvik. I think that his scenes with Kolvik were some of my most favorite in the episode. For one, this episode confirmed the suspicion I had that Kolvik really does care about Spinus in some way, which Spinus even recognized. When Spinus realized that Moon Knight had been doing this, I mean, Kolvik had been seeing him as basically another chance, basically seeing Spinus as another Dynus that he could have, basically just seeing Spinus as a second chance version of Dynus. Another version of Dynus that he had a second chance to basically make the way he wanted him. That was really interesting. A really, really interesting reveal. I hadn't thought about it that way. I kind of thought about more of just a father figure relationship, but when he revealed that it was that he saw Spinus when Spinus basically got it, realized that he saw him as basically another Dynus. It was interesting because it's like you almost feel like there is a part to Kolvik that does really has a fondness for Dynus, I will say, because it's like we haven't ever seen Kolvik finish Dynus off. He has tried, but he never has done it, and it's like part of him holds back because it's like there is a part of him that does have respect for Dynus and almost does want to, like, there's like just a small bit there that somehow does care about Dynus somehow. In whatever way it's Kolvik, there's something there. And he saw that with Spinus, and it gave him an opportunity for this to be the way he had, for him to get what he had wanted with Dynus in the first place. Not in just a way basically to make him this, like, what he wanted him to be, like, as in he wanted him to be, go out and, like, do the things he wanted him to do and all that, but, like, the kind of relationship he had wanted to have with Dynus also during it. So, that was really interesting, and I almost feel bad for Kolvik, even after all he's done, and the fact that you know he's going to come back at some point and make Dynus' life hard again. Part of you feels bad for him, especially now that Spinus is going off basically on his own and might not wind up really seeing him again anytime soon, if at all. You kind of feel bad for him because he doesn't really have anybody, and I mean it was by his own choice, but I don't know. I guess you see there is some part of Kolvik you can see sometimes that even past all the things he's done and the fact that he's evil, there's some part of him, something there. So Kolvik, this is another reason why I just really like Kolvik as a villain. And this might be the last time we see him in this season. Probably will be. I mean, it might not, but it probably will be. I mean, who knows? Maybe Kolvik might come in, step in at some point at the end, and find some way to help Infinite Black. I mean, because he doesn't want to be the Cerberus of Destruction, so I don't know, maybe we'll see. He may or may not. I don't really think he will. I don't really care if he does in that. I mean, I'm not saying he should, because I don't really feel like he needs to, but if he did, I mean, that would be interesting. He may or may not. I mean, we'll just see. I don't know what they're going to do with Kolvik, just like I didn't know what they were going to do with Spinus. So this might be the last time we wind up seeing him in this season, or maybe for a while. But this was a nice way to close the book on his involvement in the season. I think that he had a good role in being a mentor to Spinus in this season. And I think that the two characters had an interesting kind of relationship. So, yeah, I mean, he had some really interesting scenes with Spinus. Some really good moments with Spinus. I really liked this final scene between them. And overall, yes. I mean, I really enjoyed their dynamic and the whole Spinus storyline and his and Moon Knight's mentor role, Kolvik's mentor role Kolvik's role as a mentor, like Kolvik's role as a mentor this season. So yeah, that whole thing was interesting. We got some really good moments, and I really enjoyed that part of the season. I think Spinus has been one of my favorite characters and additions to the show, and I hope sometime we get to see him again. I mean, he pretty much gave away that he's not going to be really using his powers anymore, but hopefully somehow, someday we see him again, because I really enjoyed the character and his relationship with Moon Knight. So, moving on, that leads me to basically to the action. We got some really epic action this week, like some really good action from the Turbo T-Rex, the Traxol and Traxol, Examus, I think Drolin was there, Traxol, Examus, Drolin, Kragel. That might have been it. From their battle scenes with the MCT subjects, the really cool battle we got with them, the scenes we got with them battling the MCT subjects. We got some really good action this week, and on those scenes alone, we got some really cool takedown moves from Turbo T-Rex and Cragel and Drawlin to the bigger action fight scenes we got in the climax, where Ager finally got into his final fight with Bracer that we've been waiting to see because the two characters have a sort of rivalry, and to that big fight scene, to the Spinus and Dynus team up with Flametail, to Moon Knight fighting Incendiary. I mean, we just got some really awesome action this week. It was really cool seeing all these fight scenes, all these characters battling as a team against the DXH. We got some really awesome choreography, like really, really awesome choreography. And the climax was really epic. I mean, we got some really awesome scenes. As I said, it was awesome to see Flametail come back. And it was even more awesome that he got to battle Dynus and Spinus, which tells you he must be pretty tough because he did battle both of those characters, and both of them are pretty well trained. So yeah, we got a lot of great action this week. Some really, really awesome moves. Some of the best battle scenes we've had in this show and in this season. So the climax did not disappoint. It was really, really awesome. We got some great stuff in the climax. Great choreography. Was some really exciting scenes. And overall, yeah, I mean, the climax was awesome. The fight scenes were great this week. Amazing. And yeah, I really enjoyed the action we got this week. The episode did not disappoint in the action regard at all. So, yeah, the climax, most of the end, the last quarter of the episode was the battle scenes, and as I said, we got a lot of great stuff there, a lot of really awesome action scenes. I don't want to keep repeating myself too many times, but we got a lot of exciting action scenes there. The choreography was fantastic. I mean, seriously, we got some really good moves, guys. And overall, yeah, as I said, the climax did not disappoint. They showed this being a action-heavy episode, and just like in the first part of this two-parter, the action was fantastic. So, moving on, I want to point out that I like the fact that Ager got to basically do the takedown move on Bracer, because they do have the rivalry, and I feel like he kind of deserved to get that, especially when he said he's been waiting to do that. I thought that made it even better. But yeah, it was awesome that he got to do the final takedown move because of their rivalry. But anyways, yeah. So, lots of awesome action this week. Great, awesome climax with a lot of really cool fight scenes. It was great having Turbo T-Rex there, made that even better. And so yeah, that leads me to the final scenes we got this week of basically the reveal that we're going to get to see Dragonland again. I did not see that coming either, at all. Like, really did not see that coming. I had no idea they were going to go back to Dragonland this week. So, I mean, not this week. It's not this week. I mean, this season. I didn't know that they were going to go back to Dragonland at all in this season. So, that came as a really surprising, really pleasant surprise. And I really am really excited to see where that goes, because we haven't seen Dragonland in a long while. I don't think we've seen it at all this season. I can't remember for sure, but I really don't think we have. I think that we only did in the last season. So, yeah, I mean, it's really awesome that we're able to see Dragonland again. I can't wait to see where this is going to go and what's going to happen. So, I'm trying to remember, for some reason it's escaping me, why they were going to go to Dragonland. They got the message. Examus had the message that he let Larson read that was, I think, from the king. I think it was from the Dragon King, and I think it's because the Myth of Blade. I think they said that the Myth of Blade is there. I'm pretty sure that was the reason. But anyway, so yeah, I'm really excited to see where that goes, guys. So far the season has really been going great, and this episode did not slow down. If anything, it just picked up even more. And now that the XH are finished with, we're moving on to the final climax with Vehement Black. So, overall, yeah, that was, I'm pretty sure I covered everything, and this was a really exciting, awesome episode of Dragon Now. Now, as for our rating, I'm going to go ahead and give this a... I'm going to go ahead and go with a 9.8 for everything we got this week. After breaking everything down and talking about everything, I was thinking something like a 9.5 at first, but after breaking everything down and talking about everything, I just feel like we got a lot of really good stuff. Not even just only the action, but all the stuff we got with Spinus and the fight scenes and getting Turbo-T-Rex in the show and just everything. We got a lot of good stuff this week, so I am going to give this a 9.84 amazing. Now, that covers my review, guys. I'm pretty sure I covered everything as I said. You can let me know if I didn't, whether or not you think the score is fair, what you thought of the episode, and keep checking back with us at FFN for more reviews on Dragon Now Season 6, the final 2 episodes. We are at the penultimate episode next week, and as always, I'm really excited. This has been a great season, so we're just gonna have to watch and see what happens, see how this all ends, and yeah, bring it on. So, thanks for watching, guys. This is Skillin from Fast Fire News with another Dragon Now review, and I am out. Yeah.